Would you just like to introduce yourself?
Yeah, my name's Bert. I'm part of Climate Justice Action, which is the global network which mobilised the Reclaim Power Action in Copenhagen in December. Now, Copenhagen was a failure from the position of governments being able to take any form of action on climate change. That's widely recognised. And what we're seeing in Bonn is more failure. That's unfolding in front of us. Around a month ago, people spoke in Cochabamba in Bolivia, and there's a conference that brought more than 30,000 people together to state ways forward other than the status quo. That was proposed and put forward to actually be on the table in Bonn and for people to discuss, and it's been completely ignored by all of the world's governments. What we need to do is actually start to take action ourselves. We've been saying this all along. These institutions are not capable of making the changes we need to see in the world. We need a systemic transformation, and that has to come from people organising. So we were here in Bonn, we've had a meeting, we're here to say that we're against what's happening, but we're going to take this forward. We've got our own projects, we've got a day of action happening in October as well, which I can probably tell you more about in a minute. So that's why we're here.
And you said that we've just had Ashley as well speaking up on stage. She's saying that Copenhagen was a failure in terms of governments, but it's seen this movement emerge, and this could be kind of a really big and successful movement. But back in the UK, there's kind of polls coming out saying that actually less than 60% of people now rate climate change as a big issue, and this is kind of a bit of a paradox here. Actually, people seem less interested, surely.
Mm-hmm. Well, there's two things. Firstly, we've got to make sure that we're aware that whilst Copenhagen came into the eyes of us in the West, and climate justice became an issue in the West, people have been fighting this struggle for hundreds of years. The history of climate change goes all the way back to, at the very least, the beginning of colonialism, the extraction and the exploitation of people and of resources. So this is something that's been happening for a long time. So although we're starting to feel and experience a climate justice movement, we have to remember that people have been fighting for climate justice for centuries. And on the point of whether people are believing climate change is an issue or not, this isn't just about climate change. This is about the entire way we organise our lives. It's about racism, it's about sexism, it's about exploitation, it's about long working days. It's about every single struggle that people are facing in their lives. Climate change, the way we're experiencing it, is only an effect of the way that we've organised our societies. So whether people are saying that they think climate change is or is not serious, this is something which means something to people's everyday lives. And that's our job, is to be able to say, the struggles that you're fighting are the same struggle that we're fighting.
And this is a kind of a pretty different experience to being inside the conference centre at the Hotel Maritime. There's very slow negotiations talking about RED and LULUCF, and kind of quite a slow process. What's the kind of, you say moving forward, you've got this day of action in October. What are the plans?
Well, October the 12th is a day for system change, not climate change, for the rights of Mother Earth. And historically that was Columbus Day, right? Which was the beginning of colonialism, formally recognised the beginning of colonialism in South America. And we think we need to reclaim this day as a start, to say we've had enough colonialism and we've had enough of the climate crisis and the crisis of capital that we're facing as a result. And we need to start to put a different way, a different agenda, a different way to organise ourselves. So this is the beginning, and what happened at Copenhagen was lots of different movements from across the world came together and started to experience a new way of working together, new ways that we could take issues forward, new ways within Europe we could talk about energy systems. It's not enough to just change coal for a wind farm. We've got to question, where is the demand coming from for this energy? Why are we demanding this energy? Same with free public transport. There are lots of things which I think can resonate with everyone and which makes sense. And we need to start bit by bit actually practically putting some of these solutions into effect. I mean, we've got a big task, we can't kid ourselves, but I think one thing that's people across the world are starting to realise is we can't rely on anyone else to do the things that we need to see. It has to come from us. So we've got to start with this day of action on October the 12th. There are lots of different groups ranging from Via Campesina right through to CJ as well. Via Campesina, I want to plug them if I can. I've got a day of action on the 16th against Monsanto, bringing in another issue about how agriculture is completely owned and dominated by huge multinationals, which aren't dealing with food production in the local areas. They're not dealing about the needs for food, but they're dealing with profit. So I just wanted to plug them, so get that in there. So I think what I'm trying to say is, it's not one issue, but lots of different groups and lots of different networks are all coming together and realising that this is a crisis with many fronts, and that we have to fight all of them at once, and that we have to put in new solutions.
You say this is a big issue. Of course, one of the things that the negotiators are grappling with is the timing of this. They're saying emissions have got to peak within the next 5 years or so. I guess the timing poses similar challenges for a movement like this. There's a huge amount of change that has got to be brought about very quickly. I don't know how many protesters there are here, maybe a couple of thousand maybe. It's quite an impressive turnout. But do you think you're going to be able to build this movement quickly enough?
Well, I hope so. I mean, we have to start with hope, and I think for me one of the things that has been missing for a long time is that hope or a belief that anything can change. And certainly at Copenhagen, for a lot of people, that was the death of hope, the death of belief that anything could happen. But at the same time, as you'd said, there was a birth of another hope or another way of doing things. And I mean, one of the things when we're talking about time periods, we've got to make sure we don't make things worse. That's the first thing. And what's happening within these UN negotiations is going to only accelerate the crises we're facing. Issues like REDD, privatising forests, reducing biodiversity, all of these are only going to accelerate the crisis we're facing. So there are some groups like Climate Justice Now who are doing really good work to try and slow down these policies that are being pushed forward. And then it's up to us to find ways, like outside of these conferences, to bring around changes. But look at Bolivia, for example. If we want to believe, we want to think, where can change happen and can it happen? Bolivia had 400 years of being completely dominated, first in colonial period, then through to neoliberal governments that privatised their mines, drove people out of their work and off their lands. And what they managed to do within a period of 5 years is kick out an international water consortium which was going to privatise them. They managed to kick out gas companies. They managed to kick out the government which was pushing forward these policies, and actually put in their own government that would listen to the people and that would respond to their demands and the changes that they needed to see happen in their communities. Now that's not a blueprint for the whole world, and it isn't saying that's the way it's going to happen everywhere, but it does give us hope that if people do actually mobilise and work together and actually collectivise our struggles, then we can make anything happen.
Maybe that's a nice note to leave it on. I'll just give you one opportunity to plug that day of action in case our viewers are interested in it. Can you remind them when it is?
Yeah, October the 12th, 2010.
Excellent. Thank you very much for joining us.
Cheers.